have a girl sitting like this. It's on my Instagram, but I know I put in videos and at least one. Just going way back. Trying to, maybe in preparation for a class I was going to take at the Art Institute in high school, just figure drawing and realistic painting. And I was saying how I think to really do a really, really good job in makeup, to be a makeup artist, you would have to also then it would probably translate into being a very good realistic painter, skin tone and coloration and all kinds of things like that. And playing with light to kind of account for scarring or not with highlighter and contouring and shading. And I don't know if I was going to like a black tie type of thing or not. I would put in that effort, so just even skin tone, but see now, it's not just a uniform color. There's shades here and there, and to make it look natural and like naturally flushed, you kind of have to see color here and there, and so it would be the same in painting skin tone. And it was like, it's not my goal necessarily to paint like realistically ever. I felt like in high school that if I could like just know that I could do that for myself if I needed to, like wanted to paint a realistic painting, and if I actually studied it and carried forth with that and some determined goal to be like I could have, and if I was able to paint on somewhat okay as a high schooler, that girl that's like that. If you ever come across a painting, like one of my videos like that, I'm trying to find which one it was. There's a lot of videos. A lot of videos. Because then you can just like assess whether or not you really like it. Okay, yeah, I could, but it's not my goal. On to the next style or just a medium to have a working knowledge of, I guess. Like I have all those ways of drawing and painting. I could just looks like a pretty good peg to me. As a fourth grader, like, okay, that's checked that off the list. And whether or not you want to the mountain and shaman, I guess I was just you should have a overall good sensibility of how to at least work in that medium or in that style, so that different projects, commercial projects, call for different ability to, especially as an illustrator, to work with different designers within their own sort of. Not everyone does like old school illustration for the entire collection. Everyone has their own sort of way of conceptualizing a collection. So, any way, shape, or form you're doing that for, it has to be representative in style, right? So it's businesses like art and commerce and having some sort of commercial sensibility of and relevance. I think it speaks to some sort of relevance and market saleability and where the consumer mindset is at. So there's always that sort of overlap for me since I studied fashion and then was just always like I felt like naturally trained in different artistic styles throughout my life. And I was always going to do something with art, but never knew like how exactly that would translate. I was trying to find like some sort of practical, professional means of applying my artistic knowledge to and sort of natural talent, but of course you can always be better, and why you wouldn't take into account what you were doing from the start, because I mean, even back in Renaissance times or any time of people were apprentices, and Leonardo da Vinci were painting at like age 15, so people lived shorter lives, and all of that was taken very seriously. So I don't, just kind of thought that if I could like combine all of my working knowledge of so I could something even more all-encompassing of some kind, I guess, that carries things forward. She's like a little dust mop. She's so silky, and she literally picks up all this dirt and dust. And she goes like, "How did you get so dusty? Where were you climbing?" And she climbs into my bed, rolls around on the floor, like, oh god, I don't know, even know. Yeah, she is so cute. Muffin, cute as a button. Yeah, just a little. She's, so yeah, I'm making my book still for next semester. And so yeah, I felt like if I could both draw and illustrate and just cover my bases kind of thing. So if there was a project or collaboration that called for a different style or type of vibe, or I have some sort of ability to work to that end. They took all these things out of context. It's just not what I was expecting. So, don't storm out of here like you did last week. I like your son and the lifestyle, not going anywhere. Seems I'm home after all. Oh my gosh, Muffin, Jesus Christ. Look at her, she's just a little slow. She's like a Swiffer. Just picks up like anything on anything that like she walks across. Just anyways, yeah. Nope. Stay out of the garbage. And I slipped over the hard parts. Or just, on our whole revenge spree. Push my face into the concrete. I'm sorry you see me that way. Gosh. Yeah. Different projects, different means, different goals, different, just, realistic illustration, realistic painting, and figure drawing, and that would probably make for a good makeup artist. And maybe realistically, I should have gone if I was working so diligently becoming mastering my skin tone painting skills. It's like a high schooler in my spare time. Which painting, or what video that painting's in. Kim, okay, how are you? Here. It's been some heck of a weekend. That didn't really seem to happen either. So what we were talking about outside, about people's renditions of reality. Why some are taken with more weight or significance than others. Objectively. And throughout time, patterns exist. And a slow realization, I don't want to say slow, but if you consider like over your lifespan, slow realization of one's own beliefs in a personal way, that discussion and conversation and debate can kind of sometimes facilitate a stronger sensibility about, or necessarily you don't have to agree, but yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what all that is meant to do, this conversation is meant to do, is facilitate that individual realization of some personal beliefs. You can truly do that. I mean, we're talking on a spiritual level, you don't even have to be, but yeah. And that would only mean that you both respect and fully realize that individual aspect of it, and to live and let live, and to not impart anyone else's, your own beliefs, but to converse and discussion about the truths of the reality we find ourselves in. As best anyone can surmise, having been on this planet for only so many years, going off of what we're told or led to believe or born into and thought to be accurate. So, yeah. Talking about how my friend and I in high school used to discuss religious topics, like, why did bad things happen to good people, in very like basic terms, but through his background in Buddhism and mine in Christianity, and I was raised in, like, objectively, like, well, in the Bible it says Jesus won't like solve your problems, people might walk with you through them, and his stance was something a little bit different than that, and probably, and I think to even be knowledgeable of what other people believe that you're not in control of, and that's the point. And I don't know why people have been so imparting of their wisdom with expectation that people follow it in some sort of absolute way. What I was always presenting was some sort of combination of things that perspective wise or in context could amount to such a conclusion, but in a broader sense, people looking into that or assessing it, and they felt they needed to assess it more so to appreciate a playlist of best visual way I could pull together a theoretical concept or idea, and a lot of levels and visual means and personal perspective, connections and whatnot, and then and to either just appreciate it for that or to and when I said to come to their own conclusions, I meant in a broader sense in the topic that I was discussing, in the context I was within the context I was discussing. You don't have to believe exactly what I said or my personal stance. I wasn't saying that. And they're stranger than strange, odd idea of participation or artist experience, or what they thought was already experienced. Or some certain people, I think, had something to say about. I don't know. It wouldn't really matter unless there was some sort of expectation that I'd be like allowing of that. No, it was more like me presenting a topic and concept and context, and not for anyone's necessary approval. They don't have to believe it in the same way, but overall, within those broader contexts, of course, I would never tell someone what to believe. They just their own conclusions on the topic I'm talking about or theorizing about. So, and finding like some sort of visual means sometimes. Sometimes that leads me to create like a theory of everything. Some sort of micro to macro scale of basic properties and ideas of origins of time and matter, significance, and gravity scale in that sense. Playing with words in a binatory way, just how it all works together. It's phase one of rebellion and revolution and new beginnings and pioneering a path, forging a path. Right, literally like revolution. Any of these things that have to do with strikes or protests or just rebellions and upheavals sometimes, but sometimes it's not in that context. It's just a new beginning or a realization of where you are and a new level of a cycle and how you can determine more course this time. Or how you go about the same sort of cycle that we are chained to the rhythm in a sense. So I think people are like confused, like already, like forecasting and creation. I've done all these design to forecasting. Sometimes something that's very linked in a sense. Not a niche of the industry. It's just a lot. Like creating tomorrow and commercial products and creating what people want and having a sense about timely product release and studying commercial cycles and trends and revolutions in that sense, but how I combined it all and tracking trends and repetitive nature and frequency and categorically and along the path of the natural alchemy is defined on other scales and achieving the philosopher's stone or lead into gold and having some sort of quantifiable that makes sense on a some people would just be like, so that's some random number akin to with tracking trends and what does that mean? And so in terms of alchemy, it would make sense to have translated that also into gold, but it is your value system. You know, on an individual level scale, each person's value system, not what I created necessarily, but yeah, if you're looking at it and assessing in that sense, it's a value system and comparison of large variances of data, which is what the Picasso system was created for within that initiative that I was going to be a part of before I had to move back home, the Einstein College of Medicine, epigenetics, genomics research, and data comparison or DNA comparison. It's data, so you had a lot of ways to compare them and properties, and yeah. So what you wanted to compare was a trend and its value and goals and sort of translation of that, of its frequency, or the idea's frequency and how far it carried, and longevity and market presence and trend relevance, or how far it carried over into the next season, and how those ideas were represented in very visual ways, and that made it easy to make to identify, like a runway set that had a lot of cubist type shapes, and that relates to the all systems go, or arts and crafts, and the tinkering with and creation of a system, and the trial and error of it and whatnot. In the phase 3-4, there's a little bit of carryover, I think, with the tarot card also, the Three of Pentacles, arts and crafts and systems, and editing process. It can be applied on all these, even in editorial editing. So you can compare seasons and months, and even as they related on a music scale or a metaphase within the alchemical cycle. So that really, in essence, it is a value system. And what you chose to focus on as a viewer of that data, actual data, and tracking of trends over the course of 2 years. And what I just came across is one individual social media user and artist that was putting stuff out there, and just kind of under the radar in a sense, but probably a normal sort of chance of being like put on like the view page of Instagram, and normal influence that would put an idea out there, how far it carried and related in time and relevance and market, and what you see in people who are influencers or music videos and focus, and you see happening environmentally. And if you can make those overall identifying, you can identify those things overall, you can, it's all related on like in a category of alchemical cycles. So then you would have more of an idea of what's happening. You might expect on a like psychological or societal, or you might see going forward, and just having a better sense of how that might relate in commercial success of an idea, and from the start, which one to go with. Relating to perceptual learning and simulation of tactics to employ simulation of tactics to employ perceptual learning techniques in genomics research in the team initiative that I was going to be part of. And yeah, it's a kind of two-parter. It's DNA and all relating on a scale, but on different scales. I don't know. A lot to try to explain, and it's a lot taken out of context, unfortunately. So I just shared my I just came across this video by a French artist, Angel, and I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name. I always feel bad if I pronounce his name wrong. So, there were like all these strawberries spill out into the street, and that was kind of a visual example of this playlist. That says it's like an idea. Try it. It was an idea for if there was ever like a big mass like that was destructive and needed to be broken up. Some sort of way of perhaps doing that. I don't know if not, it's a joke, but if so, I mean, you could expand upon that. And I thought what you could do is release a bunch of marbles. It's a little bit, doesn't hurt that it's a little bit lost your marbles. Yeah. And people can't, it's kind of like you wouldn't be able to, tons of them. And people wouldn't be able to really stand and fight and walk and protest or whatnot if you needed to like break up some sort of horrible riot or something like that. I don't know. I'm not trying to like say either way, like for or against anything. It's just like objectively, if you had to break up something, this might be way to do it. And then in order for like easy cleanup, they would all have like little magnetic and equated to we had these magnetic pin cushions in design school. So if your pins fell all over the floor, you could just like hover the magnetic pin cushion around them and then just like suck them up. So you could have something like that on a larger scale for marbles or just some sort of vacuum kind of thing. And yeah. And then the song at the very end of that is what I just found last night, but that's not what I was going to do. Just conceptual art projects, ways of visualizing and demonstrating an idea that I might not be like a technical coding expert in order to create that, but to that effect, or that I, as best I can, apps and whatnot. But and how these things would be like reiterated in the clouds, like later that day. There's like a spaceship hovering over my head in this video with Maroon playing, and yeah, that was I went to lab school, University of Lab School, or color it was Maroon. It was a real legacy. I did start in like preschool and through high school. You know, you're, So, actually, someone that was just like her went up to me the other night, and I was listening to something that said, Black Rob. And brother, tried to get it to follow me, and I came across it again. I saw him walking. It was so cute. I was like one of you guys. There's like a cat that just gives birth to. So white and black. My neighbor's cat is white and black, and it came up to our window when these four had just been born, and Waltz is kitten that's white and black. And the TV said, well, I was like, oh, look, is that your baby daddy, Supernova? And the TV said, the boy looks like me. He does. He's black and white. Like crazy. It's like narrating their thoughts. What was that movie? Like the 80s? who's talking now. It's just so crazy. Anyhow, I just like picked up their, so I said, was this you, Walt, that just left me a little poopy surprise? And she was like, guilty. And then I picked it up and I'm like, I'm like that. Thanks for covering for us. Gosh. You little stinkers. A monkey on my shoulder. That Frida Kahlo picture. It's actually a little monkey on her. She's a kitten. She just walked over to me and like got onto my shoulder. We took a video and she just looks at me like, who are you? So cute. The tail wrapped around it. It's like a spiral pattern, like pattern magic. Found it. Came to the conclusion that matter is frozen time. So